Call this meeting to order. Can we stand for the pledge? Sue, can you do this, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's see here. First up on the agenda is the approval of the March 11th meetings. Have you had an opportunity to review those minutes? And if so, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Sue.
Second.
Thank you, Jen. Any discussion from the board? Any public comment? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is student reports from KMS, Ada Stevens and Logan. Step on up, hit the silver button and turn the red light on.
Hi, my name is Ada Stevens.
And Logan Spratling. We're from KMS and we're on Team Titans.
Here are some fun things that are happening at KMS right now.
A group of 14 students embarked on a spring break adventure of a lifetime to Greece. They explored many breathtaking landscapes from Hydra along in Delphi, which the ancient Greeks thought was Earth's center. They also saw the world's largest olive tree grove. They ran on the track at the site of the first Olympic Games in Olympia and visited the Parthenon, a symbol of Athenian democracy and culture. The students had read many books inside of these sites before the trip, but seeing these places firsthand magnified their learning 100-fold. The excitement and memories will last forever. We also had a group of students travel to Puerto Rico with Mr. East, and they visited art museums of Old San Juan.
This promoted an awareness of other cultures and significant historical events. The highlight was a visit to El Morro, a stone fortress built in the 1500s to protect against invading ships. They also participated in bomba dance lessons and learned some of the history of various Caribbean and African cultures' influence in Puerto Rican culture. They also made a visit to El Yunque, a rainforest, a royal Hyacintha, snorkeling and kayaking with bioluminescent algae promoted science and exploration. One of the highlights was seeing squid and turtles during snorkeling. Spring sports began on Monday, March 31st, and will end on May 9th. The 7th grade girls tennis has 25 girls, and 8th grade tennis has 23, for a total of 48 girls out this spring. 7th grade girls and boys track has 67 participants, and 8th grade girls and boys have 88 this year, for a total of 155 students out for track. The total number of KMS students out for spring sports is 203.
We had our annual Special Olympics Assembly on March 19th. We honored and celebrated our athletes as they competed in basketball, skiing, and bowling this year. We had 6 competitors and 4 additional students participate in Dream Adaptive Ski Days. Our 7th grade math teacher, Susie Trefney, won Middle School Educator of the Year, and the Kalispell Education Foundation awarded her during our annual Special Olympics Assembly.
Our current 6th and 7th grade students, along with 5th graders, are registering for classes this month. We send representatives to all of our elementary schools to talk to all of our 5th grade students to answer questions, review registration, and get our new students excited for next year. We are excited about the new course offerings discussed tonight that include fashion design, career exploration, personal finance, connecting in cuisine, discovering our own backyard, local tourism, team sports and development, mixed media and fiber creations, theater, the chef's journey, yearbook, and redefining our reading enrichment program that is multi-grade based and based on skills.
You can talk about any other learning experiences that I think this was a fun year. From running to gym and participating in music, I can't wait till 7th grade. One of my favorite things we did this year was see the Anastasia play because they were such good actors and they had really good voices.
So this year I took part in the school musical, The Wizard of Oz. I loved it because I got the opportunities to meet people from different grades and act and sing. I chose band as my extracurricular or in school class, and I still love to sing. So that was really fun for me. I also did cross country this fall, which again was a really fun opportunity to get to know other people from different grades. It was great because I was out running while we still had some warm weather and sunshine. Um, and I met some of my friends in other grades. And I think it's just a great sport because everyone can participate and it's just a really friendly, slightly less competitive sport.
Thanks for letting us share what's happening at KMS. Feel free to stop by and visit our school whenever you can.
Questions for them?
Yeah, if you have any questions.
Because of the levy that's coming up and because gym classes have been cut from twice a semester to one semester, how's that impacting you?
I think that would impact me because my gym teacher this year has actually been cut, and I think a lot of people that had her really enjoyed having her. And I know that there are some people who don't enjoy gym, but I think that the opportunity to run around and like not be sitting in a desk every day is really nice. Logan?
Also, it like teaches mental toughness and it's just like a good experience. And I'm glad that the high school makes you do it for at least 1 year. So I'm glad that's a thing. And yeah, it's just good to like run instead of just sit for like.
Follow-up question, have you noticed any, because of potential cuts, have you noticed any differences in the other class offerings that exist at the middle school?
Well, it might be like it's kind of disappointing because like you might like really like a teacher and then they just get cut, and then you're like, no.
Yeah. I also think that it's kind of a letdown for upcoming students who think they might like to pursue a career in art or technology that they only like Kalispell Middle School is the biggest middle school in the entire state and it offers more classes than almost any other middle school. And I think that there are people who are excited to be there just because they get to take those extra art classes or those technology classes. And so to have those cut would be taking away experiences for people who that might be their only reason why they want to come to school every day is because of that fun class that they really enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for coming and presenting and for your thoughts on this. And we have a big challenge as a community to look at this and to try and come forward together and come together and pass a levy. So I appreciate your guys' thoughts. I do have a question though. What character did you play in the play?
I wasn't a character. I was ensemble this year. So I was a munchkin, um, a monkey, an Aussian, and an optimistic voice. So all the small parts, but it was really fun. And um, the kids who had been in theater, there's this really fun tradition where we all get together and share like our experiences from rehearsal and the school performances, and they all just give encouraging advice about how they all started as ensemble, and it's the best because you have more time on stage than any of the other characters. And so I'm really hoping that someone will take that on or that there will be theater or acting classes offered next year because, as you all probably know, Tracy Snipstead is retiring this year.
I also really like the plays because like I wasn't in it, but it was really entertaining to watch, and it's kind of inspired me to like try out for a play next year. So yeah.
A chorus member is a very different part than a solo artist, but it's every bit as important and every bit as big a skill. Don't let anyone tell you that being an ensemble member is less of a time commitment, emotional commitment, or learning experience, because they're really completely unrelated skills. And frankly, I trust somebody who can blend over somebody who can stand out. So
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Great presentation. And from Flathead, David Moody.
All right. So it has been a couple months since I've been able to come to a school board meeting. So I'm happy to be back and see everyone again. And like always, I really am very thankful for having been given this opportunity to speak in front of you guys today and all the past months I've been able to, because I certainly think there's value behind being able to kind of give you a short glimpse of what's going on the high school level and kind of keep you guys involved and weaved into what's up at the high school. So in the same manner that it seems as though all the animals are waking up for spring, it appears as though all the activities are waking up at the high school, and there's been a lot going on. But like always, the springtime at the high school is a fun time. I've certainly been enjoying the weather, and that dopamine is always helpful. So starting off, I just kind of have a list of things that have happened recently at the high school and are going to happen that we're excited about. Starting off with prom, which was this last Saturday, and there were over 400 students who attended, which is always great to see, especially because as a member in student council, that is where our primary funding comes from. So that money we are able to use to have some sort of impact on the school. As a senior at the high school, the seniors get kind of precedent over what we want to do with that money and how we want to spend it in a manner that will be beneficial for the school. So the current idea is possibly revamping the bathrooms, but we'll see where that takes us, and we'll see whether or not that's an available option. But as someone who's been here for 4 years, we certainly could use nicer bathrooms. So I'm hoping we'll be able to use that money for that opportunity. But as always, it was my last dance as a high schooler, and it really was actually quite the blessing. I was able to go with my friends and had a great time, and I heard overwhelming good things about the dance. So I'm very thankful about that. And then tomorrow, as maybe some of you know, the juniors at the high school are taking the ACT, which means the rest of us have the day off, which I am thankful for, because then I'm able to use that time as a catch-up day to catch up on the work I am missing. And for those of us who are not missing work, we can use that free time to our discretion, which is always nice. And with the ACT, we tried something new this year. We did an ACT prep class on Wednesdays after school. So we did 4 of these prep classes, 90 minutes long each, and we had 70 juniors sign up for that, which is quite a significant number. So we're always excited to see that the juniors are trying to amp up their education and use their resources as beneficially as they can in order to, prepare themselves for college. So we're excited about that and looking forward to the results that come from the ACT. And similar to like what they mentioned at the middle school, spring sports are just beginning. This includes track, tennis, and softball. And it turns out there are a lot of people in each of these 3 sports, because all 3 sports were busy today, and each of my classes only had like 6 people in it. So I went from class to class with very few people, and I will say I was a little bit jealous they were out enjoying the sunshine, but it's always nice to see all the people who are getting involved. So we're very happy to see that. And then on a really, really good note, which I was unaware of if you were to ask me a month ago, we had 2 students participate in the Skills USA competition, which is an automotive-based competition where they're able to apply their skills and win scholarships. So one of our students, Cameron Seals, won first place and $50,000 in scholarships, which is amazing. And then another student, Cameron Motif, won third place and $16,000 in scholarships. And then they're both able to travel to Atlanta and compete on a national level, which I didn't even know existed. So it kind of just makes me realize there are so many opportunities out there that I'm unaware of, and I just need to apply myself and learn about those things. So we're super happy for them. And then we also have the DECA Nationals annual trip, which is in Florida this year. I was fortunate enough to go to the Nationals trip last year in Anaheim, and I have amazingly fond memories of that trip. And I'm super thankful for the opportunity that provides the students, not only to apply ourselves as business professionals, but also to, experience the world. There are a lot of students who aren't always given the opportunity to travel with their families. And just those events like that, DECA Nationals, traveling to a place that can appear so foreign can have a lot of beneficial impacts outside of just the actual application of the competition. So we're looking forward to that also. And then again, we have Friday off this week because of the music festival, which gives our more musically inclined students an opportunity to participate and perform and receive feedback on their musical abilities, which is always nice to see, especially for someone like myself who is not particularly musically inclined. It makes me thankful for all the people who are giving gifts that I have not been given, so we can pick up each other where we fail. And then lastly, the school is participating in a You Are Enough project, which is basically this whole initiative to kind of battle the mental health issues that Montana is facing. And I am personally aware of the students who are kind of spearheading this movement. And it's been really neat to see where this has gone and where it will continue to go. They have even made, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, t-shirts that say "You Are Enough," and they'll designate specific days to wear those just to kind of have an impact on the mental health, you know, an impact on that issue that we oftentimes see in Montana. So we're very thankful for that. And then lastly, just from a more personal end of things, I'm a senior in high school, so I've been very busy trying to get all my scholarships figured out and deciding where I'm going to go to college. And although I love where I'm at now and I love all the experiences that I've been blessed with at the high school, I'm certainly looking forward to where life will take me beyond this and into my college. So, and as always, thank you guys very much for everything that you do. We're really thankful for all you guys. And with that being said, are there any questions? Yeah.
Your ACT test prep, is it a test, a prep to teach how to take the test, or is it a tutorial, and who's in charge? I don't know if you know the answer to these.
Yeah.
Do you hire someone to come in to
Yeah.
do it?
That's a fantastic question. So the principal, Miss Payne, along with our guidance counselor, Mrs. Bay, were the two people who led the class. And as you may know, kind of the nature of the ACT leads it in a manner that is kind of a test on how well you can take a test. So that's really what they're trying to teach the students who are coming, is how to play their cards correctly to basically play the ACT, if you will. And I was super surprised when I heard that 70 students signed up for that class. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how that pans out with the results, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to provide that class to other students.
Two questions. First one is, since you have 2 days off, which one's a catch up and which one's a recreation day?
Fantastic question. So Wednesday is assigned as a catch-up day. Obviously, for those students who have nothing to catch up on, then that means both days are recreational days. But the reason we were able to get Friday off also is just because of the music festival. There's not enough room for everything. And then Wednesday, we were able to get approved to get off because with the ACT being on Chromebooks and on computers, the gym no longer fits everyone. So they have to spread everyone out through classrooms, and there just isn't enough space in the high school for us to have school on that day. So they decided to just have it as a catch-up day, which works for everyone because, we're able to use that time wisely. And if we don't have anything to catch up on, then.
So does that mean you have 2 recreation days?
For myself, yes, I do have 2 recreation days.
Second question is, what is your interest when you go to college?
Yeah, so it's kind of a niche market in many ways. I really am fascinated in the STEM field, and I would love to go study nuclear engineering. The issue with nuclear engineering is the only places that offer that are way out of here. So pretty much in the South, Tennessee, Alabama, Carolinas. So I'm trying to figure out if there's a way I can attend MSU for a couple years, get all my engineering kind of prerequisites out of the way, and then from there transfer to someplace in the South where I can pursue
She
that.
graduated from MSU, so she loves what you said.
Yep,
Yeah.
I got my bobcat on. He's got his grizzly.
Yeah, both my parents went there also, and I've really only heard good things. So.
Is your mom Danny Mooney?
No,
Oh.
Neom Moody.
Okay.
No
Thank
worries.
you.
Of course.
I just wanted to mention that if you say you don't like to play music, listening to music is also enjoyable.
Yes.
And all of District Music Festival is free. The jazz band in particular might be fun to listen to. So I think you should, since you have an excess of free time,
Yeah.
go enjoy it.
Yeah, I will say, I'm certainly not one artistic enough. Maybe if I applied myself, I could achieve those skills, but certainly not one at this point in time artistic enough to kind of be a part of the music festival. But I've gone to a lot of the choir concerts actually, and every single time I'm been very impressed. And it's nice to, music is refreshing in a manner that a lot of other things aren't. So it's nice that even though I can't necessarily participate in those things, I can still appreciate those things.
And the board too. Friday and Saturday, and I think this Friday and Saturday, pretty much all day, you can go and listen to 10 or 12 performances at a time at leisure.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
So, during the 4 years you've been a student here at Flathead, we've run levies
Mhm.
and we're running one now.
Right.
Do you have a sense for the temperature about this one compared to earlier ones?
Yeah. So I will tell you, both on a student aspect, but also a community aspect, there's certainly more buzz around this one. The ones in the past, well, of course, was younger, so less aware in that manner, but I heard nothing about it, just around school, at home, regardless. But this one, whether it's a result of me being older, which maybe has some impact on it, but there's a lot of talk about this one. There's a lot of student activity. As a matter of fact, there's a junior at the high school, Vikram Vadi, who's leading this kind of initiative to get out and go door to door and inform people about the levy. And so it has been very fascinating to see how this one differs from all the other levies. And I think that kind of just goes to show the stakes of the levy.
What aspect of DECA have you enjoyed?
Yeah. So I participated my second year in DECA this year. Unfortunately, I am not able to go to nationals in Florida, but I have to say my trip last year to nationals in Anaheim was my favorite part for so many reasons. So like so many people, it's just difficult to take trips sometimes. And so you really begin to appreciate the trips you can take. And so the nice thing about DECA is not only are you able to go to, like for my case, Anaheim, and compete on a national level and kind of apply your skills on a level beyond what you would find here, but you also do other activities that you wouldn't get elsewhere. So for example, we took an evening and went to the beach. And I don't think there will be any other time in my life which I'll be able to go to the beach with all of my best friends and just have fun. And like eating dinner on the beach, and we went to an Angels game, and it makes me really thankful, honestly, for that opportunity, because I know outside of school, how difficult would it be to get 5 best friends together to travel to California? And so the opportunity DECA has provided me in terms of my experiences with my friends is probably the most valuable thing, alongside all of the business professional knowledge that I've learned.
And that's where I was going to go with it, is locally when you're involved with DECA, what have you found beneficial with that?
Yeah. So this year and last year, the state conferences were in Missoula. And I think the coolest thing about the state conferences is all of the people who you meet at the state conferences. So obviously you're able to apply your knowledge and learn new things and practice your public speaking in front of a judge. But not only that, you're able to meet people who are interested in similar things. And I will say the culture around DECA is a really good one. It's really fascinating to see the people who find themselves entangled in that field of study. And I've met so many people who I share similar ideas with, who I share similar aspirations with. And I always think, like, it's really interesting. I think the connections you build is a part of business that isn't often talked about, which certainly applies to the DECA model of business-based club, kind of like speech and debate. And so those relationships that I've built with other students statewide are extremely valuable to myself. And I know other people can find a million different valuable things in the local level of DECA. Yeah.
Just since you brought it up, we do have discussions with the board about this sort of thing. What do you think about catch-up days versus remote days? I mean, which is more beneficial to you as a student?
Yeah. So the hard thing is people vary so much. So for myself, I enjoy school in many ways, and I like learning, and I tend to be a curious person. So being able to have those catch-up days outside of school, I'm still able to use that time wisely, simply because it's something I enjoy and I appreciate. But I know there are other people who aren't as fortunate in that manner and don't enjoy school as much. So those catch-up days outside of school maybe aren't as beneficial. So I think that's almost difficult to answer just because people are so different in that way. But I would say in general, for whatever reason, most people, high schoolers, tend not to use their time as wisely as they should, whether they're in school or not. So I think that can maybe play a role in what you choose to do. Yeah, of course. Any other questions? All right, thank you guys very much.
Thank you, students, for coming and presenting. You're more than welcome to stay if you would like, but you do not have to. Appreciate it. Next up is public comment. At this time, the board provides the opportunity for comment on public matters that are not on the main agenda. Members of the audience are encouraged to briefly address the trustees on an issue that is not on the agenda. The chair of the board will seek comments from the audience on significant items as they occur. Public matters do not include any pending legal matters, private personnel issues, or private student issues. Please do not attempt to address such issues at this time, or you'll be ruled out of order. You'll be given 3 minutes for public comment. Do we have anyone here for public comment? Jarrett, I'm going to have you go second. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, board. Is this really on? Okay. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I trust that your IT department or whoever is in charge of allowing audio to actually be captured has gotten the bugs that worked out since my last public comment in August, which seemed to be intentionally muted, as well as the comment from the Senate Representative John Fuller in support of my comment. I will reread my comment in full from August 13th, 2024. My name is Mindy Castrita. I live in Kalispell. I'm here today as a concerned parent in the district. I would like to share what I have experienced at Flathead High School that has deeply affected my family. Mr. Jensen, Mr. Fasaro, I appreciate your time and want to thank you for your compassion and empathy. After spending my summer processing the damage that this has done to our family, our entire family, and specifically my daughter, a recent Flathead graduate of 2024, I'm here to address the board and make other parents aware of Flathead High School's complete disregard for Montana state law so that they do not incur the heartache that my family has. The law I'm referring to is the Constitution of the State of Montana. It's Title 40, Chapter 6, Part 7, Parent Involvement in Education. I would assume you're all familiar with this since it was just passed in May of 2023, and it is our job as educators to familiarize ourselves with the laws, both new and old. It reads, the Board of Trustees of a school district, in consultation with parents, teachers, and administrators, shall develop and adopt a policy to promote the involvement of parents of children enrolled in the school district, including procedures by which a parent shall provide written consent before the parent's child uses a pronoun that does not align with the child's sex. If a parent provides written consent under this subsection, a person may not be compelled to use pronouns that do not align with the child's sex. As you can tell, I'm emotional in this because it should be taken very seriously in this district. If this was passed in May of 2023, why did you not address this new law with your staff at PIR days in August of last year? Why was my child allowed to go by a preferred name and pronouns that do not align with her sex at birth? I never provided written consent to Flathead High School or the district to allow my child to pretend that she is a boy. Never.
30 seconds.
I'm going to go the full amount because this was muted in August and I deserve that time, just as the students deserved and were granted their time. Okay, here are some of the devastating things that occurred that my family encountered last week as in the last weeks of my daughter's senior year, a time in which a mother, as I as a mother am supposed to be able to reflect on all the moments from birth to now of my daughter and what a joy and a gift it has been to raise her. And instead, without warning or consent, these things happened. The band director referred to my daughter as a he. Conversations with staff and myself revealed that this has been going on all year long without my knowledge. Hearing my daughter announced at her final band concert as a boy, my daughter was encouraged by the Career Center to apply for scholarships in her preferred name and pronouns, receiving mail at my home from Flathead High School addressed to a boy, attending scholarship awards nights to hear a boy's name receiving several $1,000s in scholarships, but yet it was my daughter standing on the stage while we sat in the audience with tears of disbelief running down our face. And finally, May 31st, graduation day for our girl. Watching and eagerly awaiting to hear that ever so meaningful name that we chose for our daughter at birth. When she was born, to be announced only to hear a name that we did not know as she walked across that stage and was announced with a boy's name. All because she was called out of class for a meeting with her principal at Flathead High School in which she was encouraged or coerced to use so-called preferred name at graduation. As a public school teacher myself, I'm appalled that FHS has not upheld the laws of the state of Montana. I trusted you with my child. You failed. I trusted you to involve me. You did not. You've ignored the parents. You've ignored the Constitution of the state of Montana. Let me say that again. You have ignored the Constitution of the state of Montana. If you are so worried about one more suicide on your watch, why do you pacify the students instead of involving the parents? Are you aware that transgender and non-binary young people between the ages of 13 to 24 are 3 to 6 times more likely to attempt suicide? 59% of transgender boys/men considered suicide, and 1 in 5 of them actually attempted suicide. I can attest to these alarming statistics personally due to concerns I've had for my own child during her senior year. I'm here today because I am my child's advocate, not her enemy, and not yours. We need to be a team and get our children the help that they need. This is a mental health crisis. You are fueling this mental health wildfire that has zero containment. You are not protecting them by keeping secrets from their parents. You are harming them. Let's be honest here. Pretend play ends at the latest age 11. However, Flathead High School is still allowing it. Board, I urge you to get on campus and implement clear procedures and bring the parents back into the conversations at Flathead High School. The indoctrination, grooming, and secrecy must stop. It is obvious that my child has suffered extreme confusion between home and school because of the way the school handled this. Let us parent and guide our children, and you make sure you teach the K-12 contents
Okay,
and
fine.
Montana state laws are upheld. I'll be back next week
Okay. I would-
or the week
I
after.
would encourage
So
you to-
22nd, I believe, correct?
It will be the 22nd.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I do appreciate it. I do. Jarrett, do you have public comment? You have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Jarrett Stump. I'm a teacher here at Glacier High School, and I'm just here today to talk a little bit about a loan. This loan was taken out back in 2016. I believe it was for $750,000, and it was a district loan taken from their interlocal savings account and basically placed into the insurance fund at the time to try to save insurance. The teachers in the district were negotiating that year, and they came to an agreement that the teachers would take less of a pay raise that year in order to help pay their share of saving the insurance. And then the district would match that. And apparently the loan was their answer. If I have my facts straight, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the loan has a clause in there that will pay out if the insurance ever shows a positive balance at the end of the year, I believe is what it says. And I'm not so sure that'll ever happen, but I feel like I would like to ask all of the board members that are here today to ask the central administration about that loan and see if they could take that off of the books. If it's a loan from their interlocal savings account, it's a no interest loan. I don't see any reason why that should still be on there a decade later. I think it has negative impacts on our insurance. And according to some people I've talked to, including and Scott mentioned it, I believe in the last meeting as well, that is a negative hit on our insurance when they're looking at the numbers. So I fear that if we do not take that off the books, that will continue to negatively affect our insurance premiums and things of that nature. And at some point, it may be a huge problem. Then it's too late to take that off the books because again, it's just a number. You could just delete it at any time. And again, I don't see why the teachers who have continued to pay for that year after year after year by taking less salary are still on the hook for that, and you guys are not removing that loan item. So I would again urge you all to consider asking the central administration to remove that. And hopefully I'll see that in one of the upcoming board meetings as an agenda item. That would be great. I appreciate all your time and all that you guys do, and have a great day.
Yeah. Liz, you got public comment? All right. Next up is the personal activity report. There's a couple that I would like to highlight. First up, Mark Denny is on there. Mark has been in the district for a long time. Mark actually hired me as one of the women's soccer coach back in 2002. And just what Mark has done for our district has been amazing. And he will be missed. He will have big shoes to fill. And his knowledge throughout the district, his knowledge throughout with the other ADs across the state is going to be missed. So that's what I had to say.
Can I say something?
Yes, you can.
My mic. Liz, you've done an outstanding job. We get to interface with you a lot on a board level, but I think about the last year you've had, and I kind of liken it to Matt's year as well. And he hasn't even been with us a year as superintendent, and like having to deal with negotiations and all the health transitions that have occurred, and then the fact that we have a levy and a reduction in force, and any one of those would be a really difficult challenge for someone in your position, and you had all three, and I thought you did a really nice job with them. So I wish you well, and I know you'll do great, and it's always fun to get back with the kids. So anyway, congratulations. I'm not happy, but congratulations.
Yeah, I echo that too, Liz. Nothing but great things to say about you. I've heard nothing but great things about you and in your time here in the district. You will be missed. You will. Small feet, big shoes. But appreciate everything you do and good luck. Jack.
Maybe I should present you with a set of yellow and red cards for your new job in case you need them to communicate with people.
I move we. Oh,
I appreciate all of those comments and echo the same things. I have watched Mr. Dennehy work behind the scenes, navigating some really challenging situations that have played out in the media that are really one-sided. And I just want to speak to the class of which I know him to act by consistently, regardless of the circumstances or what people perceive. Through some really challenging times, he's treated our kids very well. He's treated our staff very well. And I just respect how he's navigated good times and hard times. So he'll definitely be missed. We were successfully able to keep him on board a little bit longer, so he'll officially retire in September, transition after the summer. Still working on Liz's transition plan. We would like to keep her through the summer too, but I don't think we're gonna have as much luck. But Liz done a remarkable job, and she knows that we've had lots of conversations about this. We're excited for her future, and hope our paths cross frequently. Wish she was continue to be a part of KPS. She's definitely welcome back anytime. For the record, she's very welcome here and has done a remarkable job. But we're excited for her to reconnect with the Kyla community. I know they've missed her a lot. So.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sue. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, insurance rate increase. Yep.
Is there anything we need to do with it?
Do I just hit the speaker button?
Speaker on the pad? Yes. Very mentioned phone on that pad. Yeah, just to frame this up as Scott's logging on, Scott is our consultant with USI. Most of you know him, recognize him. He was here at the last meeting. He's based out of Texas. And so we, at the last minute, asked him to be the one explaining these rate increases and be available for questions from the board. So he had a book schedule, but he is going to make this happen for us.
Hey, Scott, can you hear us?
I can. Can you guys hear me?
We can. Thank you for taking the time to present for us.
Yeah. And I apologize for background noise. I just stepped out of a meeting and in a lobby, so I'll make the best of this.
Thank you. So we're here to talk about the insurance rate increases. And I will turn it over to you.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'll turn it over to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so as we discussed last month, we had underwritten the renewal through February using February data and information. And we were calculating at that point in time an 8.7% increase. And what we did was monitored all of the check runs. There were 5 weekly check runs in the month of March. And March turned out to be a very high claim month. We had approximately, $1.1 million in medical claims, $213,000 of prescription drug claims, which is on par with the monthly average. But we ended up with a total monthly claim in March of $1.3 million, which is the highest claim month that we had since 2021. Out of that total, we had what's called a stop loss credit. We had one large claim in there, and it was a claim that we knew about and we were watching, but we hadn't received the claim yet, and that came in and adjudicated in March. but we did get a stop loss credit of $552,000. So that's that reinsurance protection that is inside the mechanics of the self-insured plan that pools large claims like this. So long story short is using the March claims and rolling forward on the underwriting, we're now calculating a 12.8% increase to the medical rate. The dental and the vision remains as we had projected a month ago. So we're basically then recommending a 12.8% funding increase to the medical rate going into July of 2025. And I believe you all have the memo that we had put together. I think Liz was going to present that to you all as kind of a summary and a recap. So any questions at this point?
Any questions from the board? It's not looking like it, Scott.
Okay.
I do have a question.
I guess if
Hold
there's,
on. I guess we do have one question, Scott.
I was just asking Jack. I mean, obviously we've had one large month, but blending that over the prior 12 months, I mean, I guess, so we went from 8% to 12%. Is that what I heard from what we got presented to last month to what we are now ultimately having to approve? Okay, so we're talking about like a 4% increase, or actually a 50% increase from what was previously imposed based on just 1 month blended over 12 months. So that means our prior 12 months, I mean, did we only have like, I mean, my math is not good. I always say this, but I mean, did we only have like $200,000 in claims over the prior 12 months to have this net impact? I mean, it just seems like a pretty large jump for 1 month that is to be blended over 12 months. That's my question, I guess.
yeah, I think if I heard the question accurately, that is a substantial increase based upon 1 month of funding. But one of the things we're also trying to do is be conservative going into this plan year, recognizing that we're trying to get ahead of the trend of medical trend versus always playing catch up. One of the things that we did in the underwriting is we're blending over 24 months, not just 12 months. And so the way that the underwriters are looking at it is they're looking at a 24-month period, and even looking at the claim month of 801,000, that's quite a bit higher than what we typically see year over or month over month. But we're also aware that we've got 2 other claims that are sitting out there. We have an individual that had a stroke about 2 to 3 weeks ago that is inpatient, has been inpatient for 3 weeks. And then we've got another potential transplant that is coming at us. And we're, basically also being very conservative, knowing that those claims are sitting out there as well. Now, it's likely that they will hit that $200,000 stop loss attachment, but we still then have to account for, those 2 claims at $400,000 each. So we have built-in margin into the projection going into 2025.
Any other questions? Yeah, Will.
So because of this one outlier, we've jumped from 8% to 12%. If it turns out that over the next year, everyone stays pretty healthy, we don't have another outlier like that, and our actual cost is more reflective of the 8%. Is there any way to pull back that 4%?
Yeah, if I heard the question correctly, these are projected funding rates for budget purposes. If the plan runs more positive than the 12.8%, that money stays in the coffers of the district because it's money that's not spent. So just because we're projecting these as budget rates, there's a possibility, for example, let's say you came in and you only spent 90% of it, then that 10% would stay inside the district, and that's money and dollars that are not spent going into the next year. But what we don't want to do is end up going 12.8% and then spending 110% of the 12.8, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I got another follow-up question for you in that regard. I mean, our employees share in this cost with the district. So in the event there is a surplus, I'm not sure if this is a question for you, Scott, or somebody else, but how are we making our employees share in that savings as well? Because they share in the cost, the monthly cost of this insurance.
Yeah, so one of the things to look at is that the 2025 rates and the employer contributions, the year over year, those are shown in that table. The employee only rate is only going up 8.7% because of the Affordable Care Act requirement of a minimum contribution requirement that we've calculated. So the employee only rate is going up 8.7. The family and employee plus spouse and the other rates are going up 12.8. The tiering then for the employee plus spouse, employee plus children is attempting to maintain a 70% contribution by the district and 30% by the employees. And then the employee rate is only 8.7% of that total. So, far below the 30% cost share. And then it goes up 8.7, but the employees are only participating up to 15% of the employee only rate. Now, in the event that there's a surplus, as the underwriting for the next plan year comes into play, those contributions will adjust year over year. And if there's a lower renewal next year, let's say, for example, 3 to 5%, because we've over projected this year, then, that contribution will adjust accordingly. But ultimately, the 12.8% is intended to meet a 100% loss ratio, albeit we have built margin into that calculation.
Scott, this is Jack. The question, you said 24 months as opposed to 12 months looking back and seeing how the month of March fits in. But when you're actuarially looking at it, you're looking at, and I'm going to use the phrase rolling averages to see how each time period impacts a next time period. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more, please? Because it seems like we might be hooked up to or caught up too much on just the month of March impacting it, because it seems like the months of March, April, May, and June of each year seem to significantly impact the plan compared to the first 8 months of each year.
Yeah, and Jack brings up a really good point, and that's why we're using a 24-month period of experience to set the rates and contributions. As Jack pointed out, year over year, we find ourselves trying to project and to set these rates. Like right now, we're at the first week of April, setting rates to go into effect in July and to be basically funding this account through the end of June of 2026. So the point that Jack is making is it seems that year over year, that period between April, May, and June, we end up getting a number of large claims that come in. And like I said, we know that we've got 2 out there that have just incurred within the last month. And we also have, I believe, 7 large claims that have been ongoing that are part of this experience. But, it's kind of a good news, bad news. Even with the 9 to 10 people that we've been monitoring on these large claims, that's converse to a couple of years ago. You all may remember we went to like 110% loss ratio. There were 22 individuals that we were monitoring that had claims that were over that $100,000 benchmark. So even though the claims, the number of large claims are running, I guess I would say half of what we've seen in prior years, we still believe that there's a couple other claimants out there that are just now being incurred that we have to account for. So that's also part of the conservatism going into this next rating period.
Scott, can you also explain why you're using 24 months instead of 12 months?
What the 24 months does is it smooths out the projection. If we were just to use the most recent 12-month period, we might be looking at a 20 to 24% increase. It gives you the ability to spread out the risk over the 24-month period when we're doing our actuarial projections. And then we are weighting the prior 12 months, 30% of that year, and then 70% of the most recent year. So even at the 70% of the most recent year, the reason I say that if we just use the most recent 12, especially with this March being so big, it would calculate much greater than the 12.8%. The one thing about the large claim that was incurred and paid in March, that individual is at the end of any other clinical options available to them. I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but that's a extremely sick individual that had what I would call a Hail Mary procedure that was very expensive. And right now that individual is in remission and it's doing well, at least what we're seeing. But if that individual doesn't continue to be in remission, their options of any further treatment are very limited to almost none. So it's not a recurring claim, is I guess what we're getting at. But this person's medical condition has spanned over the last 3 to 4 years.
Thank you, Scott.
Any other questions for Scott? Seeing none, do you have anything else to present on, Scott?
No, I think you guys have asked some good questions, and I know it's a challenge. It always is, but this is where we believe we need to be projecting out for this next plan year.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And any questions afterwards, Liz knows how to get a hold of me.
Hey, Scott. This is Matt. One of the lingering questions, I guess, that came up in committee, just that it'd be nice if you touched on, was we were running some calculations that were impacting the rate increase. And I'm paraphrasing, but you could elaborate. Basically, there was two main drivers for the rate increase. One was the claims that were driving the rate increase. And the other was the potential and the change of staffing. And your overall determination and analysis was the bigger impact was the claims, not the change in staffing. Can you add to that?
That's correct. Yeah, we through the process, Chris Campbell brought up a good point that have we taken into account the fact that there's going to be a reduction in force July 1st. We went and identified those folks. We looked at their past claims. We adjusted for that in the calculation, and it only had a very minor impact to the overall projection.
Scott, one thing just to kind of correct me if I'm wrong here, but for a little bit of context, if our insurance had operated in the past that in a way that it allowed us to build a reserve, one-off anomalies in high monthly health claims being paid wouldn't necessarily have to have such a significant impact on our renewal rate. But because we don't have a reserve and our cash burn this month is going to be probably in the neighborhood of $480,000, we have to price aggressively because we have effectively no padding. So we need to recoup that. Is that incorrect?
I was not able to hear that clearly. Could someone repeat that?
Can you hear me now, Scott?
Yeah, that's better.
That's better. Okay. I was just saying that to Jen's point earlier about like perhaps this just being March being a one-off kind of anomaly month with the high claim number that we had. If we were in a position where we had established a reserve that's appropriate, we could absorb those anomalies and not necessarily have to pass that impact on to the district and to staff. Because we have no reserve, and this month will probably be somewhere in the neighborhood, I'm guessing, of $480,000 of cash that we burn through, so expenditures in excess of revenue. We need to price aggressively to ensure that we don't put ourselves further into a deficit situation.
That's correct. And, you know, the calculation that we're putting forward this year is has conservatism in it, where we're hoping to be able to build a reserve so that as we get to these years where we have high impact claims like this, that the health plan itself is able to weather plus or minus, because we've got a reserve that's been built up. That's an ultimate goal that was established at the insurance committee this past year.
Jack?
I suppose, Chris, to help answer the question a little bit, if we changed from a 24-month look back to a 12-month look back, it would increase the premiums, but it would be more likely to increase a reserve. So that's the dilemma. The purpose of the 24-month look back was to reduce premium increases over time. And Jared, you're not going to like this, but that $750,000 that was put in was because the reserve didn't exist at the time to help cover things. So in essence, that is a contribution to a reserve that is long gone. But that was the district's contribution to that. So the reserve is always the big issue, how to create it. And if you have a lot of large claims like we tend to have year to year, that if you shorten the look back period to the most recent 12 months, or even if you were to shorten it to 6 months in some cases, the corresponding premium increase would be borderline outlandish. And that's the reason for a 24-month look back. So I'm not, and I don't, only Scott could probably answer this one, because when you talk about Blue Cross Blue Shield or Pacific Source, what type of a look back period do they utilize for an entity? Do they utilize 12 months or 24 months when they decide their premiums? And when they end up having a bad year, do they end up just looking back 12 months in order to recoup the premiums at that future point in time when you renew?
I heard the question correctly. The carriers basically underwrite 12 months over 12 months. So, you know, if we were to go back to the carriers and provide the update to the experience, you would see an increase in those premiums very similar to what we're seeing in our funding projections as well. Our underwriters use the same methodology to underwrite a self-insured plan as they do a fully insured plan, using the same discipline and methodologies, except the carriers, keep in mind, are only looking at a 12-month period of what they need to fund 12 months of claims, because that's what they're at risk for. We're looking at it from a perspective of, in the long term, how can we actually build up reserves and stabilize the plan? And that's why we're using the 24 months to smooth that impact of these large claims.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Scott? All right, seeing none. Any last words, Scott?
Nope, you've asked some great questions. I appreciate your patience and ability to address them.
I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jack, anything else?
Thank you,
I
Scott.
just work on clarification.
No, you're all welcome. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
You ready for a motion or
No,
discussion?
No, I think we have to have
New agenda item.
Yeah, it's a new agenda item. So insurance rate increase. So we got an action item. Liz, Jack, Chris, do you guys have anything to add to the discussion before we make a motion? that public comment, I'll let you. All right, seeing, go ahead, Chris.
I'm not a good.
I just say, I think,
Next year, for our renewal with the state plan that will potentially come online, it'll be worth another really deep dive into this and hopefully be the start of getting us kind of on a long-term trajectory that provides some stability with price and our ability to manage this going forward. It's a really tough thing, but I do think with the state thing coming online and then a couple other ways, we'll look at some other options. Hopefully we can bring some good recommendations.
Yeah, I just want to echo a lot of what's been said, but these are tough numbers to swallow. We were looking at back-to-back years of double-digit increases in insurance. The recommendation from us is to renew as self-insured for a year and then continue to work on this issue. But it's these are dollars that come from the general fund that we use for negotiating. These are also dollars that come out of our teacher's pocket in the sense of their 30% contribution as well. So that's not lost on anybody. It's been a point of conversation within the insurance committee. And I think we all wish we had a different option, a better option, but we don't.
Rebecca.
I just wanted to add to the two of them that there were well and good reasons why, 2 weeks ago, we said that we would kick this down the road for another year. It's not our choice. It's the deadlines that we were expecting others to get, they didn't meet. It's that we don't have the numbers or the information to be able to do this deep dive at this moment. And kudos to you guys for working your butts off and not being incredibly irritated at the other people who didn't do their part of the job. But yeah, even though it is hard to swallow, I feel this is our only possible way moving forward at this moment for a short term.
Jen.
It's not lost on me that the rate increases we were presented 2 weeks ago as compared to private market were fairly comparable. And the private market going non-self-insured were online with what we were looking at our internal rate increase. So now 2 weeks later to all of a sudden jump 4%, well above what that private market quote was, is a little frustrating. I recognize if we were to go back to the private market and get that quoted now, we'd likely see some sort of increase as well. And it's probably more a product of the timing of the claim, but it's just one of those things that I can't help but observe. Second, to Matt's point, this comes out of our general fund budget, right? Our inflationary increases that we get from the state presently until the new law goes into effect are capped at 3%. When we're facing double-digit insurance increase, fixed cost increase on things that we have to pay for every year, we are falling more and more and more behind the 8 ball from a budget standpoint. And so, this I don't feel is sustainable, but it's also something that to Rebecca's point, I don't see us having, frankly, much of a choice or any option in front of us. And we'll gladly take whatever increase in inflation we might get. It's not going to be 12%. So that's a big disconnect in our funding between what inflation is and what our actual fixed costs are that are going up at a rate much greater than inflation. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Go ahead, Liz.
I would just like to point out that this is the administration recommendation. This is also the finance committee recommendation, which Sue sits on and is not currently present. And it's also the recommendation of the insurance committee. So we've talked about teachers, but we have not talked about the other portion of that committee that's represented, which are a group of people who make less than our teaching staff, and some work solely for insurance and still have to pay every month just to have that as a benefit for their family. So taking all of that into account, that is a recommendation of all three
of those groups, and that is the only path we saw moving forward for right now. So.
Thank you for that, Liz. Any other questions? Seeing none, Jack, I think we're ready for that motion now.
Thank you. I move to approve the proposed rate increase for 25-26 medical, prescription, vision, and dental insurance plans as presented.
Thank you, Jack. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Will. Any further discussion of the board? Rebecca?
Jen brings up a good point that, 2 weeks ago, we were looking at very different numbers, but at least my vote, or was that information only, my thought process at that time was not simply based on the fact that the numbers were relatively close. It was also based on the chaos idea that if we are looking at a major change in a year, to make a major change now and a major change a year from now, insurance is really not something you want major changes with on a regular basis. The fewer times you change carriers, the easier everybody's life is in understanding their plans and knowing what the process is. I mean, I have changed insurance and I avoid it.
I second that, Rebecca. Any other comment from the board? Jared, you got 3 minutes.
I appreciate having this discussion, and it seems to me like the insurance loan that we were talking about earlier actually creates a conflict of interest for the district. Some people may assume that the district could increase the insurance premiums higher than they need to be just to start paying back that loan. This way, the district could actually set it up to be $750,000 over, and the district can take back their money spent on the premiums as well as the money from staff on the insurance plan, and that money can be put back into their own savings account, the interlocal agreement fund. I don't think that would happen, but I mean, I just the idea that could is troubling to me. And I'm not sure what Scott meant by conservatism. I'm guessing he means that we need to make sure that we're, not just nickel and diming it, that we're putting it up there to a number where we know it will cover everything. But does he mean that we're padding this and we're trying to get, enough funds? But I think that's what he was kind of getting at. So if we're in a position to have a reserve, as Chris was saying, then we wouldn't be forced to price so excessively. And Scott said that he would like a reserve, but my understanding that if there is a reserve, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, because I think you know this, if there is a reserve, then wouldn't that go to be paying back that loan that's actually on the insurance document? So again, I find it to be troubling at least. And I really just think it would be better off to drop that loan altogether. And that way there wouldn't be any kind of conflict of interest that the district would have to worry about and that kind of thing. Because Jack is correct. I don't like it when you made that statement before. And I don't see why the board isn't asking to recompare the numbers from last month's meeting. I know that that's hard, but the projections are up 33%. So it might be worth it to take a sweetheart deal from Blue Cross for 1 year. I know that they give a sweetheart deal and then, they jack up the prices, but maybe we could use that to get to the state insurance plan that they're starting to make for next year if that comes online. We've already had major changes to the health insurance providers this year too. So I don't see any problem with changing it if we're going to save people money. So that's my thoughts on it. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Jared.
I need to correct Jared on something. Blue Cross Blue Shield will not go with their previous price unless they get the new month's information. Or that's fraud on the district's part.
Thank you.
Which is why if we reran this to the private Pacific Source Blue Cross, we would expect that their 9% rate
Corresponding
increase would be above. We don't know exactly what it is, but it would be more,
Yeah, we couldn't do it without them having the new numbers,
right?
or that's fraud on our part.
Okay.
Those new numbers are actually on that document that Pete had pulled up from Scott's presentation. They're just further down. So we were all the way up at 11.8%, I believe, as those projections from those private. So to Rebecca's point, that's what was compared as the 11.8 to the 12.8 and the chaos of, we did make a shift in providers this year and it did save money to our plan that will be realized and presented hopefully soon at some point for you. And that has very mixed review. So I do appreciate the stabilization for a year to reevaluate for some potentially really big changes next year.
Thank you. Any other board discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up on the agenda, the cancellation of high school trustee election. Chris, do you have anything you need to add to that?
Oh, sorry.
No, we're keeping.
No, so the only comment would be that once the high school seat is vacated by the Honorable Mark Cornick, the board will have 60 days to appoint a replacement. I think we've been through this a couple times in the last few years, so it shouldn't be anything too new. And then if it's not finished by then the county soup would be responsible for putting someone in the seat for the remainder of the term. So, and it would just be a 1-year appointment till the next election cycle. So
just for my clarification, Chris, we would have to 60 days from May 7th. May 7th. Meeting after. Okay. Thank you.
Who are you recruiting, Mark? I thought it recruited.
So we have a motion by Jack and a second by Jen.
Can I second it too?
You can do it. Any further discussion amongst the board?
I did just want to say, as I'm sure we all feel, it has been a pleasure working with Mr. Cornick. He's both insightful and amusing us when we're falling asleep at 8 o'clock. So thank you. It's been a great 6 years. And I'm sorry that you're ditching us.
Again. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Was there any savings with not having an election?
Okay. Next up is the cancellation of the elementary trustee election. Chris, anything?
just had Ursula and Jen, neither of them are here tonight, put their names back in. So the candidates were equal to the vacancy. So we'll just reseat them at the first meeting after the election.
Question, does that mean that on our, on the ballot, the only thing on the ballot in the elementary district will be the levy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Except for one of our partner districts has, I believe, a trustee election that is contested.
Yeah, there's a couple of trustee elections, I believe. And then there's a bond, yeah, for Deer Park.
But do those go on our ballots that we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, do we?
So moved.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Rebecca. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the elementary consent agenda. Do I have an elementary trustee willing to make a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Jen. Rebecca, you willing to second that?
No, I want to wait for discussion on this one. I think this one is a big one, needs a ton of discussion.
All right,
Oh, yeah, no, I'll second. Sorry, I didn't realize I was the only other elementary trustee.
well, I am too.
Oh.
But thank you for the second on that, Rebecca. What discussion do you have now?
It was just, there was some, curriculum changes in there that we don't usually do as a separate agenda item, not on the, consent agenda. And some of them were pretty big and have long-term things. So I just thought some useful information would be nice about them. Just, we're increasing our encore classes, it looks like, in the middle school, which is awesome. And I imagine some of that is going to a semester or quarter system rather than trimester system. So I'd love to hear about how that will be, how these shorter classes, is there enough for an encore class in whatever, 4 weeks rather than 6 weeks? That's a pretty major change. And that
Hey,
does mean we
Rebecca,
have to have more of them.
Just real quick, do you want to pull this from the consent agenda? Is that what you're getting at, or are you
No, I'm
comfortable?
okay okaying them. I just want to hear, I just would
Okay.
like to hear more information about them.
Okay.
I considered it and I said, no, I don't think actually, they're all great classes. I'm all for them, but I just thought we didn't. It's the board's responsibility to tell the administration what information we need. And I did notice that if they were putting in these requests, which I think go in like January, about a quarter system, I would have liked to have known that before the teachers and everyone. I think it's a big change. That I love to hear about big changes happening at the schools. How about that?
All right, we do not have a quorum for the elementary. So I guess what I will ask, because of your discussion on this, Rebecca, is if you can address it during your report, and then Rebecca, if you would like it pulled off on the next agenda as its own agenda item. I think, and Matt can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think to have a in-depth discussion on it, it would be better if it was pulled off. But if you're good with, if you're good with the report you get from Assistant Superintendent Cole after this, then we can just leave it on the consent agenda next time too.
Can I ask a question? Is there a timing issue on which we need to act on this contract? What is that time?
Yeah, both items went through curriculum committee. So our curriculum committee met twice this year. So the curriculum committee's been apprised of any of the changes, including course proposals, and then our big K-8 math cycle review process, which includes a recommendation for the iReady contract. And we just have a pretty tight timeline to get training in place in May that we have in the books. And so this board meeting was pretty purposeful in getting that contract approved to move forward with professional development.
Do we want to call Sue or Ursula? Should we go to the high school and try to reach?
No, we'll take a 5-minute recess if you guys are okay with that.
You also have to address the elementary
Levy election.
Yeah.
For the trustee and cancel that, and Chris has a response for it.
Thank you, Jack. I totally spaced that off.
I
Appreciate it.
didn't think about it because
Okay, so we will be,
I will.
Ursula or Jennifer, I just texted Sue.
we'll be seeing if we can get another elementary trustee on the line. In the meantime, we'll go out of order with the district-wide. Is she available right now?
Yeah. Do you, what phone number does she need to call?
Then you'll have to revisit the cancellation of the elementary trustee.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hi, Jen. Hey, Sue. I have you on speakerphone. We're on the elementary consent agenda item, and there's.
We're gonna start over with the elementary cancellation.
Yeah. We're gonna go back to the elementary cancellation of the election since there was only 2 candidates and 2 positions, and then we'll do the elementary consent agenda, and then we'll cut you loose, okay? Okay, thanks.
We have the cancellation of the elementary trustee election.
Move to cancel the trustee elementary election.
Second.
Thank you, Jen, for the second. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Oh, never mind.
Yeah, Mark. Thank you. That carries with Rebecca, Sue, Jen, and Scott. No one opposed it. Next up is the elementary consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Jen.
Seconded.
Thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca, do you want to start with your question again? Okay. Any further discussion on the consent agenda for elementary? All right. Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you, Rebecca, Sue, Jen, and Scott, and no one opposing it. And please address that in your report. Okay. Thank you, Sue. I think you're free to go now.
Sue, wait, hang around for one
Sue.
more, hang around for one more vote.
All right. Next up is the district-wide consent agenda.
So many.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Will. Any discussion?
One question, the new bus, will it have seatbelts? Because the legislature just passed a law that requires seatbelts in buses. Yes, I'm seeing head nodding for yes, thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? All right. Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. You're good on that one, Mark. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Sue.
Thanks, Sue.
Thanks, Sue. All right, see you, bye.
Next up is trustee reports. Rebecca?
Sorry, I was a little late. I was actually in a meeting 2 floors above for a science club discussion.
We don't have 3 floors.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
You said 2 floors above.
Okay. I think it says it's room 3 something.
So feisty today, man.
Whatever room I was in.
I
I think this building is a tesseract anyway. It's impossible to find my way around. Anyway, I was at a science club meeting, and one of the things brought up was that somebody said, oh, we should make a Google Classroom for ideas for science teachers from different grades, because there was somebody from Edgerton there, and somebody from Glacier, and somebody from Flathead, and they're like, we should have a Google Classroom. And one person was like, why don't we already have that? And you know me, I'm always into vertical integration. I thought it was really interesting that the teachers were presenting that they didn't feel they had cross-school discussions of what science teachers should be doing. And that probably means the history department feels similarly. And anyway, I just thought that was very, very fascinating. And the other thing is we've talked on and off about having a students representatives to the board. And I was so impressed with the people presenting these talks. I thought we should really not forget that we could add non-voting student representatives to our board. And I think it would get us a lot of buy-in and we'd hear all sorts of interesting things. That's it for me.
Thank you, Rebecca. Mark?
I reviewed the curriculum updates at middle school and they're incredible. That's all I got.
So a while back, I got a new barber, and we were doing a levy at the time, and she had all the typical, I can't vote for this reasons that you hear on the street if you ask anybody. But then her daughter graduated with a teaching certificate, and she taught at Fairmont Egan, and then she came to SD5. And now my barber is like, do you have something I can put in the window that does the levy? So my take.
Shorty's Barbershop?
No,
Oh, they have one in my window. Yeah.
that's good. So my takeaway is not because it's illegal to ask prospective teachers who their parents are and what kind of community involvement they have, but that this levy is getting a lot of buzz.
So I want to echo what Will said and how while a levy can very much make us have to put in extra hours because the work of the school still continues on, I want to echo the efforts of everybody who's been working hard to get out and have those conversations in the community, and really applaud our administration for getting out in the community and having these conversations and hearing all of the various comments and thoughts, because I've said all along, and I remain optimistic, and I believe this, that it's not that our community doesn't support our kids or our schools. They don't understand how we're funded and why we need to run levies. And when you have these one-on-one conversations and you open it up and you say, what's your heartburn issue? What's holding you up? What's on your mind? What are you hearing swirling around the community that's giving you pause? When you do that, it is amazing what you will hear. And when you hear that stuff and have those conversations, then you give people information such that they're informed voters and they're not voting based on rumor or suspicion or things that are just swirling around. And I think the information, as I've said, the information, the truth shall set us free. On any one of these issues, when we drill down and we look at it, it supports the fact that this levy is something that this community should pass. And I'm a firm believer of it. And so we've had a lot of conversations with community members, and a lot of community engagement and a lot of one-on-one conversations with people. And I won't even begin to recite. I'll just say, I think it's been great. And I look forward to the ones coming up in the coming weeks. And I would urge all of us as school board trustees to make sure that we are doing everything we can to have those conversations within our circles and where we're asked to have them with other school boards, that we make those connections and contacts and do that. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Pass.
Thank you. And I just want to thank the board too with everything that you guys have been doing last 2 weeks, and been a little behind on my emails, but I have glanced through them a little bit, and I appreciate all the work that you've done, Jen, especially you. If there's something that I can do to help support you and take a little load off your plate, please let me know. So. Love that you go rogue.
Matt might say he wants a different wingman.
I did.
You did? I've been bumped as wingman.
So no, I just appreciate all the work you guys putting in on this, and I think I'm with Jen on this, that I'm confident that we're going to get a pass. So thank you. Also, my son is a substitute in the district, and he hears from the students across the district on the impact that the levy's having, and the word that they're getting out to the community as well. So.
All right, I'll start this off. Yeah, as you guys have mentioned, we're in a full court press here. Ballots will be mailed right around the 18th. Everybody should have them in their mailbox by the 21st. So it's really between now and the 21st when ballots are in people's mailbox. So we're looking at a really quick 2 weeks here of what it looks like to make connections. Jen mentioned a lot of presentations. The actual number is 28. We've had 28 engagements. One of the most valuable pieces of those meetings is the questions we get. And so when we've been fielding questions, we've been taking those back and sorting them through the most frequent and what we think are the most impactful to respond to. There's a section on our website that's a FAQ section. And this can be our in-person meetings, but also kind of what we're hearing people ask for online. So if you're looking to kind of refresh of what are you hearing, what are in your communities, I bet it's aligned with what is also on that FAQ section of our website. We try to keep that pretty up to date. There were some recent additions on there. So just encourage you to take a look at that. And then just this is the press, right? Every channel we can think of, we're trying to get those communications. The one thing that I've asked the trustees to do is really lean into our partner districts. So if you haven't had an opportunity to get those scheduled, I've shared it's an Excel doc of the different areas. Really, it's Mr. Warnell framed up those teams around high school districts. So if you are the high school trustee in your group is responsible kind of that high school area district with the partner schools, make those connections. Mr. Facero, Ms. Cole are also willing to join you in those presentations if I can't make it. And if you want some administrative support, you don't need it, but if you want it, it's available. Outside of levy news, I sent to you guys a notice a while ago that I'm able to take a group of students on a trip to Arizona to visit Red Mountain High School and also Grand Canyon University. We leave Sunday morning. We'll be gone Monday, Tuesday, and get back Wednesday. Really excited about that trip. We got some high school staff that are joining. The intent of the trip is to really see how other places are using students really in the process of the things that are happening in the school. Rick, I appreciate your comment about a student on the board. I think that's the tip of the iceberg of students solving types of the problems in schools that a lot of adults are working really hard to solve also, but to bring them in as partners and solution finders. And there's schools that are doing this. And so we have somebody from our HR department joining us so that they can come back and see the vision and be able to translate that into how do we have students occupying real jobs in our school districts. And then we have teachers that are at our high schools that can help mobilize the ideas and set it around that. So I'm really optimistic. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to generate some really good ideas and excited for that trip coming up next week.
So just go a little bit with the levy. So Jen, I'm going out with you to Olney, Bissell, and West Valley on Monday. Is that correct? So going out there, and I think Matt has done a really good job of putting out a letter to all the superintendents and the principals to send out to the families. And, we really need to do a better job of, including our partner schools and making sure that they feel that, hey, this is our high school. So I really like, how he's framed that up. So we're going to be sharing some information around that. And so with that, just want to share just some of the outreach that we do. And it's not just during the levy season. It's for the same purpose of why we've brought on Joel and the communication director is to be able to have these continuous conversations, not just when we're asking for money. So I just want to highlight just some of the things, that the high schools are doing, with some of our partner schools. Like Glacier High School has an annual partner school breakfast. That's prior to registration. When I was principal, and I know Ms. Payne does it, and the counselors going out to all of the rural schools, meeting with them, meeting with the parents, meeting with their counselors, meeting with the students in order to get them registered. It was always powerful to go out, but again, it's not just one time. They have a Wolfpack welcome, and they also have a Brave beginning. So where they're bringing in those 8th graders and trying to get them acclimated ahead of time, before the registration process. Glacier also sends out a partner school band tour. We were up at Emmanuel. It was incredible. David Barr brought over the jazz band or Hank Hanford, brought over the jazz band from the middle school. It was absolutely incredible. Just watching those kids. We also do a shadow day, and then they're going to return to doing some quarterly meetings so we can get their counselors and their principals a little bit more involved. We've really tried to include them into Doris Mountain. We're also hoping as we go to Transformational Learning 2.0 that we can really do a lot more outreach with our partner schools and have them true partners in what we're doing. Another example would be our curriculum summit. So we're working through, Ms. Cole is taking the lead on the math and the international languages. And so we're going to have a summer curriculum summit. And, it's not just for our high schools, but we're also inviting our partner schools because they have algebra in there. And so instead of saying, hey, here's what we do, we want them to be a part of the process, from the beginning so that they can have some input and say, because as you know, over half of their students come from there. So, just some of the things that we're doing as far as outreach. So, we can always do more. That's important. And we're making that concerted effort. Just to switch over to one other thing, just a calendar update. Speaking of the District Music Festival on Friday, for next year's calendar, it was listed as April 17th. There's been a change to that, so it's actually going to be on April 10th. So we'll put that day on there. So we'll make that update to the calendar. Also, the semester 1 end date was listed as January 22nd. That's a Thursday. That's been moved to the January 23rd because you don't want to end on a Thursday and then start a new semester on a Friday. That just doesn't work. What it does, it just creates a little imbalance in the number of days in the semester. But that's been done in the past. So one might have 89 and the other one might have 91.
Does the early release swap as well for the 10th and the 17th, so that there will be no early release on the 17th?
No, I think how they set it up this year was they stayed consistent with all of the early releases. So even if we were off a day, that there was consistency.
I put all of the calendar stuff in my calendar.
We'll look at that. So.
But I'm glad you brought it up. If we need to swap an early release to be consistent with the music festival, we will.
Yeah, because as it currently was, no school that Friday, no early release that Wednesday. So now it's on no school Friday and early release.
We got the two folks in here, so they'll take care of that for you. So on there, there's also some changes, and I think this could segue to Ms. Cole's administrative report. So some changes on the calendar with KMS.
Yeah. All right. So Rebecca, I'm going to hopefully answer the questions you had. We had some email correspondence beforehand, but there were two major items on the elementary consent agenda, both of which went through curriculum committee at 2 different meetings. And then the iReady quote went through finance committee. So I'll just start with the latter. We had K-8 curriculum committee, our K-8 curriculum team meet 9 times this school year. It's comprised of about 30 teachers across all schools, K-8. And so we get some really good vertical alignment and horizontal alignment and collaboration. We started with our beliefs and visions around student learning and what we want to see for our kids as mathematicians. We really wanted to vet programs that were evidence-based, aligned with our curriculum, which is our priority standards, and really make sure that we chose materials that could teachers could easily create personalized pathways for kids. So we worked through the process of vetting programs. We opened it up for between, March 25th to April 1st for public review. We offered a variety of times. We didn't get any, but we did offer that opportunity for public feedback. And again, we're making the recommendation that you guys approved tonight that we purchase iReady for the next 5 years for our K-8 middle school students and elementary students. So super excited about that. And then as far as changes at the middle school, I'm actually really, really proud of our middle school team. They went from taking something like budget reduction process of 9.5 FTE in their school, and Dallas, Marty, and Alex worked a master schedule that not only made that happen, but inspired creativity in teachers to put courses together to match that level of need. So let me just explain. They went from a trimester schedule to a semester quarter schedule. That's why you're seeing a bunch of course proposals in front of you, because when you move from trimesters, classes kids might have taken for a full year or a trimester, we're now able to get more in quarters. And the other thing was when we reduced certain positions like the PE department, we had fewer people able to teach those sections, but going to quarters allowed us to offer more opportunities to kids. So like one of the courses that was on here was like a personalized PE encore class that kids could take. So they might only get a semester of PE, but they could choose to take an additional encore. Another was we have 2 librarians who traditionally were in the library and didn't teach classes, but because of reductions were asked to teach courses. So we empowered them to come up with some ideas of courses they would love to teach and are passionate about teaching. One was yearbook and one was personal finance. So the 2 big updates are KMS is moving from trimesters to semesters and quarters, mostly because of the reduction process. It was a way that we could work a master schedule to do this. The silver lining was that we were able to creatively come up with some course proposals to match that new schedule. Fine by me.
That was one of my, I think it's really awesome that the yearbook class and the theater class too, those are often stipend positions. So is this deliberately or accidentally going to reduce extracurricular? I mean, I love that they're doing these things curricularly, but I also kind of wonder how that affects how it has worked.
I don't believe they have been stipend positions.
I can answer that. The yearbook one for sure is not going to be reduced, and it's actually going to get more student involvement in the development of the yearbook. So.
I can look into.
I think there are rules about stipends for things that are happening during the school day.
And the time frame too, that was my other question about, if you take each course for a short, for whatever, 4 weeks rather than 6 weeks, is that going to make the outdoor courses less robust?
I don't think so. I think it actually gives kids more choice and more pathways to be able to explore things that they're really interested in. So this is our first go at a schedule like this. I'm sure we'll gather feedback from students and staff and make adjustments as needed. But overall, I think it's actually a win at the middle school to be able to offer more for kids with less, offer more with less, ironically.
Maybe just one quick thing. And just kind of more as an informational update, we have banked and will continue to bank with First Interstate and Glacier Bank are kind of our 2 main companies we're with. But just relationally, in case any of you guys are out in the community and it comes up, one of the main things we've been focused on in the business office since I've been here really is building systems and implementing them so that we have standardized systems on top of which we can start building or tweaking some of our standardized procedures. One of the last things is centralizing kind of our credit card system. After looking at 3 different banks, we currently have our credit cards with Glacier and First Interstate. Wells Fargo just has a app that Joe estimates will save us approximately 40 hours of labor per month, removing redundancy and giving us far better controls also and visibility on who has access to what account codes and where they're spending their money, and just be a big step forward for us. So just as an update, if any of us are connected to employees at those institutions, we're not leaving them. They haven't done us bad, but for the sake of just improving our efficiency and greater transparency, we are headed that direction here this spring. Wells Fargo. Yeah. Yeah. We made a good push. We worked with Glacier and First Interstate on a couple of occasions each, and they just don't have the technology. Yeah. Wells has a tough one. Deposits are still staying local, so that's that for now.
Thank you. Look at the upcoming board meeting on the 22nd. It says we will be done by 8, so make sure we're done by 8. I know. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, June. Thank you, Jack. All in favor? Thank you.